Hello everyone, it's Silvia. Welcome back to my channel. Today I've got so many decks to show you, so let's get straight into it because it's going to be a long video. So I finally had the opportunity to get the Desert Illuminations Tarot, the mass market edition. This one has been published by US Games, created by Lindsay D. Williams. I hesitated for a while to get the mass market version because I do have the original first edition of the indie production, which is this one here. And I knew that the publisher US Games had made a decision of basing, or rather maybe the decision was made by the creator, I don't actually know, but I know that the end result was going to follow more the second edition rather than the first one. And when the second indie edition came out, I didn't buy it. I didn't feel like I needed it. I felt like I personally was very happy, and I really loved the setup and the way in which the cards had been depicted in the first edition. And I thought, being the mass market one based on the second one, I would not have liked it. This is going to be my first impressions, of course. I have seen this deck portrayed in other videos from other tarot tubers, and I've seen it on Instagram and TikTok, etc. And I thought to myself, I really want to check this out. I am excited about this, and I have these two. First, we're just going to open this one up and we're going to see. And I cannot know whether I'm going to be on board with the changes that are quite clear between editions, but I am very hopeful, so let's have a look. Okay, so obviously 2 parts box, really nice as always, and I know here that there's a 120 page illustrated Desert Codex guidebook. It is my understanding that apart from the obvious changes due to the fact that there are different cards in the deck, the way in which the codex has been written from the first edition, the indie one, is not too dissimilar. So I'm very interested because I actually really like the codex from my indie edition. So this is, this is such a beautiful card. I really love this. I knew that this was one of the reasons why I actually wanted eventually to get this mass market edition, because of the full card, which is actually renamed the Trickster. But let's look at the guidebook because I'm very curious about it. We have the 2 of Swords here on the front page. And then if we look at the table of contents, we got the obvious introduction, how to read tarot, your first reading, example of 1 card spread, 3 card spread. Then the majors, the minors, obviously they tell you that they have been renamed. And Cactus Tarot spread, a Desert Prayer. Well, that's interesting, and about the creator. So really cool. I mean, we got enough information, I would say, for each and every card. Obviously, we do have a thumbprint of the card. It's a small one, but we don't need any more than this because we have the cards. And it is in black and white, which is absolutely fine. And I will just jump at the end because I really am interested into reading the Desert Prayer. I do not recall whether that is also in the original codex. Perhaps it is. This is the Cactus Tarot spread with 10 cards, so it's very similar. I'm guessing it's quite similar to a Celtic Cross. Present, challenges, distant past, recent past, subconscious issues, indeed. Immediate future, surrounding issues, outside influences, hopes and fears, final outcome. You guys know that as far as a Celtic Cross spread goes, there's different takes. You will see that different tarot readers assign different prompts to different positions, especially when we're thinking about the 4 cards on the side, on the right side. But I do like this prompts, as in, you know, the surrounding issues, the outside influences, and especially the hopes and fears. I know that there's a lot of us that do not identify in the same card a telling of our hopes and our fears. Some of us actually make a strong distinction between the two. I personally think that my fears, and that is just me, but my fears also convert more often than not into my hopes. If I am afraid of something or I'm worried that something may happen, my hope will be that that doesn't happen. And even though I can coexist in a universe where I can have hopes for something that I'm not scared of, so something positive, more likely I will be concentrating on warding off those things that I'm scared of. So I like that it actually refers to that. And then, so a desert prayer, yes, that's the desert prayer. Again, it's not surprising for me. It is a beautiful, Lindsay has a really beautiful way of writing as well. And I am very grateful to everything that she's done. I personally love New Mexico. It's one of my favorite places to have a road trip. As a matter of fact, I would say Arizona, Utah, New Mexico, those are my favorite places in the southern states of the US, because I just had an amazing time when I was there, and just driving around, stopping and interacting with the locals. There's some places in New Mexico that are just my favorite of all time, and so the fact that this deck actually reflects that, it mirrors the atmosphere that I was lucky enough to experience by myself and with my husband, and the interactions that we had with the people living there, and seeing that in the deck makes me happy. I often say that whenever I'm, for example, taking on a VR, someone is coming up with a tag saying the decks that make me smile, and the good mood decks and something like that, I always take that up on as a VR. Especially when Marion from the Waves of Your Soul does that. The good mood decks, I really, really love to do that challenge every, 6 to 8 months, because I feel like I'm happy to be able to tell people that these are the decks that make me happy, because I want other people to be happy, and not that necessarily that will be the outcome, but I certainly hope so. So let's remove even this wrap and see what the cards are. By the way, I really do love this teal color for the edging, which is something that I obviously do not have in the edition. I do not recall, honestly, if the second in the edition had an edging. I'm not entirely sure, but I definitely like what US Games has done with this color. It is, if you have been watching my channel for any length of time, you will know that I have a thing for colors. I really, really love some colors, and this is one of my favorite. The teal green and teal blues are just up there with my favorite colors. Love these bags, by the way, but I also have a thing for eyes, and honestly I do probably prefer the bags from the indie edition, the first one. So these are the bags, and as you can see, the motif is the same, and I would say that the design is also the same. The motif, the layout is pretty much 90% the same, but they do insert these eyes here, and I don't know, I just prefer this one, and orange is also a color that I absolutely love. So let's have a look first at these cards, because this deck is actually in order. The first edition is not, my apologies for that. So one of the main differences that I knew about is the lack of borders. These cards in the mass market edition are borderless, which is kind of my thing. I did go through a phase in which I was just buying decks with borders because I wanted to trim them. And it was kind of a really nice crafty idea, during the lockdown, for example. In this case, I have to say, I don't mind the borders in the indie edition, the first one. But I like what they've done. I like what they've done with this one as well. And the Magician. So something else that I have to say, Georgia O'Keeffe, of course. Massive fan of Georgia O'Keeffe. Really, really passionate about her art. I find it absolutely fascinating. And I was going to say, so aliens. Right, everyone knows that. There's aliens in this deck. And my husband has a passion for aliens. Like, he actually dragged me to the UFO conference in Roswell, in New Mexico. That takes place, or at least when we went there, it was the first weekend in July. And we went to conferences, we went to workshops, we went to custom parades, and I wasn't wearing anything, but my husband had all sorts of things. He was wearing t-shirts and stuff like that. And you have to know, if you haven't been to Roswell, it's actually pretty cool because there's a McDonald's that looks like a spaceship. There's all sorts of things, and even the local soccer team or football team, they're not called the Aliens or something like that, but they still have like alien colored t-shirts, which now I realize that it's not very smart to say, because what color would that be? I think it was green. Not entirely sure, sorry about that. Really love the coexistence of these amazing colors. I now think that I'm actually enjoying this very, very much. The star card is pretty much the same. I really, really love this. And the moon, the sun card with the Hopi. And look, this judgment card is probably one of the reasons why I always say that this deck makes me smile. If you can notice, I just cannot stop smiling, because I really, really love this idea, you know, the aliens that are abducting a cow. And I really hope that they're going to keep her safe. But at the same time, I love how bold this is. I love the fact that there's this kind of presence, and that is part of the tapestry of the entire culture in that region. Really, really, absolutely stunned by this deck. I think it works this way. I think it works, the fact that there's no borders. I was really worried, love this card, the Ten of Pentacles or Ten of Cactus or Cacti. This is really amazing. I love the fact that there's this alien, a couple of aliens that are road tripping, and you know, there's this something going on in the sky with the UFOs there. Really, really love this. If you haven't been to New Mexico and you can go, I will highly recommend it. I just really, really love that place. It was so much fun, and I really hope that I could go back one day. And now there's someone else again taking a road trip, and you know, there's also some really gruesome cards, and I do believe that this deck is one of those decks that I would probably really enjoy using during the month of October because of the Halloween vibes. I was worried about the core cards because, as you can see, the fact that there's no borders, it looks almost as if they are zoomed in, and that is not entirely, you know, it's not a bad effect, and I would have to probably compare card to card between the Fast Indie and the Mass Market Edition, but I'm not disliking it so far. So far so good, I would say. The Queen of Daggers, there you go. So this is the King of Daggers, the King of Daggers. They didn't really cut into the image, and as a matter of fact, I would say that it does look like it's a little bit zoomed in. As you can see, there's a bit more here space after the hat, on top of the hat here. But then again, I mean, the result is excellent. I really like it, so that is absolutely fine by me. I'm not going to show you all the cards. I know that there's just a couple of cards that have been changed. I love that we can find sorrow here, which is, again, it is part of all of that culture that is really textured in the places that you visit when you go there. And absolutely stunning. Really happy about this. Love this really saturated oranges and yellows, and the pink of the chilies. Really, really nice deck. They've done a fantastic job. I am so happy that they decided to pick this up, mass market, because they made it available to other people. I know also that the first edition indie went out of print and is very expensive now if you want to get it. So this is giving you the possibility to enjoy this deck as much as I have and others like me have. So that makes me really happy. So the second deck is definitely a Robin made me do it. So Robin, if you're watching, you made me do it. You made me buy this deck, so thank you for that. We're going to check out my response, but I really think that I'm going to love it. So I'm talking about Robin from Robin's Reflection. She posted on Instagram and also in one of her videos, and she posted about this deck, and I remember seeing one of her Instagram posts about the deck card, and I was like, oh my god. And I knew about this deck because this is by two Italian creators, so it has been written by Cecilia Lattari, which I absolutely love, and it has been illustrated by Giulia Varetto. However, it has also been published by US Games. Yes, it is US Games, yeah, indeed. And so when I heard about this deck, I knew that it was about fairy tales. And so I actually considered it, because what I'm doing with my members now, we're doing a massive, monumental effort to study this deck, which is the Fairy Tale Tarot by Lisa Hunt. If this looks different from your copy, it's because this is an older copy and it's the Spanish edition. And the reason why I have the Spanish edition is because when I wanted to buy this deck, it was still out of print. The English edition was fetching something like $500. That is something that is way out of my league. And so, but I really wanted the deck because I've always been into fairy tale. Fairy tales have always been my panacea. Is that the right way to pronounce that? It's a way for me to feel better. I read a lot. And I consider that fairy tales are being told by storytellers throughout the centuries, because humankind needs to get away from reality every now and then. Not to escape, it's not a form of escapism. I don't go as far as to say that, but for me it really works in making me feel better. And so I was looking at this deck, I really wanted it. It was available just as a Spanish edition, which actually does come with a larger book, so I'm very happy that I got that. But now what is happening is that we voted with my members and we're studying this deck now. But what I'm doing is I'm doing a cross or a multi-deck study, and we're really delving into fairy tales. And for example, some other decks that I'm looking at was this one here, which I still have to open. This one that I talked about in another video, so the Storyteller's Tarot, which is absolutely fantastic, by David De Pasquale, and this has been released by Hay House. And it's another of those decks. Let me just quickly show you the cards, because I really wanted to make a point here. So fairy tales are universal. Fairy tales are global. There is, to my knowledge, and I think I'm correct, but there is no culture on the planet that doesn't have a storyteller. And this storyteller or storytellers, it's a class of society that really have a very complicated job. They have the task to tell the story, and it needs to be didascalic. At the same time, it needs to be functional and instructional, and it needs to present a number of teachings, you know, about society, about how we face certain problems in society. And but at the same time, it also needs to make people feel good about themselves, about what they're about to do, about what kind of issue in their lives they're going to face, and give them the courage to pursue their dreams, or give them the possibility to believe that even if you are the small David, you can fight against Goliath, you can eventually win. And I really strongly believe that society cannot go on without storytellers. Yes, doctors are extremely important. Yes, lawyers are extremely important, and judges, and you name it. But storytellers are just as important. They're just as important as teachers, I would say. You might disagree, and it's totally okay. But this is my strong convictions. I am a storyteller. I have been writing fiction books. They're mysteries. You can follow my book. I published for free, entirely for free, 3 chapters every week for almost a year. My first book, my first novel, which is entitled The 4 Cs, and it's available on Substack. So if you find me on Substack, you will be able to read an entire book for free. I strongly believe that we immortalized our hopes and fears, hopes and dreams into the stories that we tell, and we tell them to ourselves and we tell it to others. And so that's the reason why I really wanted to do a study of the Fairy Tale Tarot by Lisa Hunt, by also looking at other decks. So we're also looking at the Storyteller Tarot, as I said, and we're also looking at the Tarot of the Divine by Yoshi Yoshitani, because it does present a lot of stories that come from pretty much everywhere in the world. And I really love this not multi-decks approach to the study. It is a monumental effort. I have no problems in saying that. I'm actually kind of struggling because of, I'm a native speaker of Italian, so Spanish is my second language. Actually, my Spanish is a lot better than my English. But translating from Spanish into English and the way in which I'm actually diving really deep into the cards and the story told by the cards is not an easy task. And I really love the result, but it really it takes me like 4 hours to prepare for a video. But I love to do it. I love to do it for my members. So there's no better time to join my membership if you want. We're doing so many things together. I'm actually getting to the point in which I'm publishing more videos for my members on a weekly basis than I am for the general public. And that's because we're doing divination, so we're doing members readings every other Saturday. We're also doing a Read Like a Pro course. So I'm going through all of the major difficulties that if you're a beginner you may encounter, and then I will take you from a beginner stage to an intermediate stage, and if you are already on an intermediate stage then I will take you also to an advanced stage of reading. I also talk about the values and ethics of reading tarot professionally, because I am a strong advocate of the seriousness and the professionalism that tarot readers need to embrace when we actually give a reading for somebody else, because we need to respect the other person and we need to read the cards with that sense of responsibility that we're actually giving the message to someone, that generally speaking they come to us because they have the problem, because they want to know that there is hope, because they want to know that something is happening, or they want to know what they need to be aware of. And we have the responsibility to assist them and to relay the message from the cards back to them in as best a way as we can. And so really interesting. And then, as I said, we're just doing a cross deck study. So I'm also using the Fairy Tale Oracle cards by Kate Forsyth, illustrated by Merlin Hunt. This is one of those deluxe decks by Rockpool, and it only focuses on a couple of fairy tales, but they are the most, let's say, popular ones. One thing that I have to say about the Fairy Tale Tarot by Lisa Hunt, for each and every one of the cards, so we've got 78 cards, and that corresponds to 78 different fairy tales. And so as a consequence of that, she had to dig deeper than anyone has ever done, I believe, unless it was a scholar at university, of course. But she had to dig really deep into any culture from any country in the world. And I have to say that the major problem that I encountered in doing the study, because what I'm doing is going deep into each and every one of the fairy tales and actually study that fairy tale, find the way in which that specific fairy tale actually ties back to the card in tarot, is recognizing the part of the fairy tale that is actually relevant to interpret the card. So I'm hoping that when we're going to talk about the fairy tales that are in here, this guidebook and the way in which the cards are presented here is actually going to help me, because we got Rapunzel, we got Sleeping Beauty, of course, we got Cinderella, we got Beauty and the Beast, The Little Mermaid, Bluebeard, Hansel and Gretel, Little Red Riding Hood, and Swans, Rumpelstiltskin, which I'm probably not pronouncing correctly, and Snow White. So there's so many things that we can talk about, and I'm really looking forward to filming these videos and preparing the material. I always release a chunk PDF file of all the material that I'm studying, with recommendation for other decks, for example, or books, fiction books, non-fiction books, even songs that can put you in some kind of a good mood in order to appreciate the fairy tale that we're going to study. I have yet to integrate the study of this deck specific with the Fairy Tale Tarot by Lisa Hunt, but I will soon do that, because I really strongly believe that this will give us the possibility to break it down to the most important things that we have to remind ourselves of when we are facing let's say, the lesson the morale, the lesson that is behind those tales. I posted the first video a couple of days ago, and I really have to, sometimes I have to rein myself in the sense that fairy tales, especially the dated ones, which is most of them, present a world that is dated. Sorry for the repetition, it's just I don't know how else to say this. There's always the hero, and the hero is always male, and is always saving a princess, and is always, you know, getting the princess as a reward. And I'm like, there's one tale, that's the tale of the Wheel of the Fortune in Lisa's deck, and it's the tale of the 12 princesses. And I'm not going to tell you what happens, but as you can imagine, the 12 princesses are in danger, and there's a hero, and he basically solves the problem as they do, and then at the end he can choose one of the 12 princesses as a reward. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay. You know, it feels like it's just going through the 12. Oh no, you're too tall, too short, you know, no, I prefer you, and oh, this one, yeah, I like this one, can I have this one? And I was talking, you know, in the video for my members, and I really had to stop myself from getting upset, because this is obviously metaphorical. This is something that it was okay in the way it was presented when the story was told the first time. It needed to present an idea. It needed to present something that was recognizable, something that was easy to understand for everyone. And so obviously it wouldn't be told the same way nowadays, and that is also something beautiful to, you know, to probably find a fairy tale deck that is based on modern fairy tales. That would be amazing. That would definitely you know, convince me to buy. If there were a tarot deck that focuses on just modern fairy tales, with inclusivity, for example, that gives a lot of dignity to each and every protagonist of the story, and talks about themes that are actually relevant right now with a perspective that is more modern, that will really probably you know, foster a study for me, and definitely gain my my interest. So maybe someone out there is already thinking about doing that, and I will be definitely very interested. But let's have a look at this one. This is the Woodland Fairy Tale Tarot by Cecilia Lattari and Giulia Varetto. Magic, folklore and plants. So there is this double take on obviously the fairy tale, the folklore related to that, and plants in specific. Comes with a guidebook, of course, and I don't really know. So okay, so this is good. This is good because obviously I already see, for example, with the strength card, the tail is the one of the princess and the pea. I am like this. I cannot, and it's not, I'm not being arrogant or precious at all. I have been camping. I have been ice camping in Antarctica. That was 15 years ago, but still, I've done that. So, and I couldn't sleep, obviously, but so I can rough it up, but that doesn't mean that I'm gonna sleep. So, if I have a pillow that doesn't work for me, I immediately get pain in my neck, and so I kind of relate to this story. Not because I'm so fair or so precious that I can't sleep, it's because I really have so many injuries. It's just, you know, that's the effect of sleeping with a bad pillow. I like it though because it gives you a little bit of, so it gives you the title of the story, the strength card, so you do have the parallel with the tarot card. This is the tale of a young woman who professes to be a princess, contrary to the opinion of others. To discover whether she's telling the truth, a bee is hidden beneath the 20 mattresses upon which she sleeps, as it is believed that only a true princess would feel its presence. Well, there you go. The following morning, the girl recounts the nighttime discomfort caused unbeknownst to her by the bee, confirming her delicate royal lineage. Okay, I don't know how I feel about this, but let's have a look at what it says about the strength card, because obviously this needs to relate, right? It needs to talk to us about the strength card. So awareness, sensitivity and kindness are the true strengths represented by this card, which does not confront with violence or aggression. That is interesting, but with tenderness that can tame even the fiercest beasts. I like that. I actually like that. Awareness and sensitivity and kindness are the true strength represented by this card, which does not confront with violence or aggression. You know, this is my take. If you've been watching my channel, you would know that I am always driven by compassion. And at this point, whenever I say this, I always say, don't make the mistake of thinking that is the easier way out. It is incredibly difficult to be compassionate. It is a choice. I get as upset and angry and fed up and really like over the top furious when bad things happen, when someone does something to me, just as much as anybody else. It's just that it is my choice. I have been down the road of being really upset and acting out and retaliating, but it just didn't work for me. And at the end of the day, I felt awful and I did not like the person that I had become. And so I have noticed since many years ago that where my body, my mind and my soul actually wanted to go was compassion. And I actually do prefer the person that I am right now. And I'm by no means saying that that is perfect, because I'm always trying to improve myself. But at the same time, at least I sleep better at night, so unless I have a pee under the mattress. So I do like that. Strength is as powerful as a small pea, like the lentil, a tiny legume for a tenacious plant that nourishes and produces beautiful flowers. Okay, I like that there is a reference to the plants, of course. The Strength card asks you to focus on the ability to see beyond, take care of things, and if necessary, make yourself small to restore peace and harmony. Absolutely loving that. The one card that actually convinced me to buy this deck was the Death card, but let me just show you. I like that we have the same amount of information here for the majors and the minors and the core cards as well. Let me just go. Why did I have to do this? A box within a box. I didn't need this box. It was not needed. Come on, US Games. You know better than that. That's okay. That's fine. I actually really like this tack box. You know what? I might actually keep the tack box rather than the bigger box, and then I would just you know, maybe I will buy a bag that will fit these two together. I will think about it. In any case, let's just have a look at these cards. I don't think that this is a popular deck. At least I haven't seen it very often when it comes to the various social media platforms, and there's a card stuck in here. Okay, very glossy, guys, very glossy, super duper gloss. Why? Okay, I know that the glossy finish of this cardstock is because probably they wanted to make the color pop even more, but I mean, you can see how much is catching the light. I am not a fan of this type of glossy finish, but that's absolutely fine. It is not a deal breaker for me. It just means that I will have to be careful when I film, but it's not even, I mean, you guys can still see them if I keep them at level like this. And it also have very good advantages in the fact that, for example, it does fan out like a charm. Generally speaking, this type of cardstock is very easy. The cards really slide. I love the passing boots for the Chariot card. This is really interesting to check whether when we encounter the same fairy tales in both decks, for example, but pertaining to different cards in the deck, that will be really cool to see which one is actually making a better use of the tale itself to represent the tarot card. So I obviously don't know all of these tales. This was the Death card that really convinced me. Really beautiful. Absolutely love this card where the representation goes with the colors and you know, the art style. I believe Robin was explained to me, because I said, look, I really love this card. She was explaining to me the story behind it, and I'm very curious to see, to study it for myself as well. By the way, okay, again, not a deal breaker, and I'm not here to complain, seriously, but I'm just going to point out that I just opened the deck and it's already kind of ruined and frayed on the borders. I don't know whether that's due to production error or not. I really don't care. I just wanted to point that out. If you have the same, you might or might not, it's fine. So these are actually fully scenic. Lot that, so it will be very interesting to see if the stories that are represented in the minors, because I do see here, for example, they might actually be the same story, but let's say spread out onto 14 cards. I don't know that. This is first impressions, as I said, but this looks like very much the same character, so I am... Yes, I do think that it's probably the same fairy tale, but seen throughout different stages of the fairy tale itself, which will be really interesting to see how it works when it comes to the interpretation of the cards. And yeah, so really excited about this. I'm kind of thinking this is Hansel and Gretel. Yes, this is definitely Hansel and Gretel. And the Seven of Wands, when Gretel is pushing the witch into the fire. Really cool. Oh, look at this. So I'm actually really happy about this deck. I didn't think that I would have been so interested in it. When it comes to fairy tales, it's always something that makes me happy. As I said, you guys know that I have a massive passion for Japanese folklore, so I have been studying the yokai for many years. I've actually, you know, now I'm very excited because in just over a month, my husband and I are going to spend just over 5 weeks in Japan, and it's going to be absolutely freaking amazing, and I cannot wait. And I will definitely make sure to visit as many places as I can, and it's going to be really fun. But in any case, this is going to be really interesting because I am definitely going to make some parallels between the two decks. So I'm very happy that I got this, and very grateful to Robin that presented this deck on her social media accounts. Okay, so moving on to another couple of decks. It's actually 3 decks. 2 are new to my collection. One is new altogether, and another one is relatively new to my collection, but I have filmed a video about this deck before, but without much further ado. So what I wanted to get was this deck originally, the Dream Song Oracle. This is one of the, I don't know, 50 decks a year that Angie Salins just pushes out into the world. She is so prolific. I am in awe of her skills. She's absolutely amazing. Obviously, you know, I believe that she is a fantastic storyteller. I'm talking about the telling of stories. In this deck in specific, I think, because I've seen this deck, I think that I have seen a walkthrough of this deck on Simon's channel. Simon's at the Hermit's Cave. And his mind was blown as well, because it is a fantastic deck. It does, however, tend to look like other surrealist decks, you know, decks that have that kind of a surrealist look to them. I personally think that it's a lot more than that, because what they've done with the keywords or the sentences at the bottom of the card. Let me just open this up quickly and I will show you the decks that I've chosen to pair this deck with. Okay, so it's one of the US Games Oracle decks, so it comes with this really nice, and now I should say almost signature box that they have, which I really like actually. It opens up like this. I don't understand why they still insist on putting this organza bag. No one that I know actually uses these. I would probably put some crystals in here and give them out. It's fine though. I mean, I get it. Maybe they needed something to create some kind of a, you know, a buffer between the book and the top of the box. It doesn't matter. I really think that this is really beautiful. It does come with this these sentences on the inside part of the flap. So your dream song is the original melody. The universe sang into your soul upon birth. Wow, I mean, that's a big start. It is your muse, your guide, and your sovereign siren. This is your invitation to remember and revitalize that song. Dancing to its rhythm awakens divine play. Dream deep and sway wild. The world is your dance floor. I love that, because it's the dream song, you know, and it's talking about what we can reach within ourselves. Is this a deck that is going to be good for, you know, shadow work perhaps? I don't know, because this is first impression. I haven't started using it yet, but I think that it might be. And so we've got a really nice book, guidebook, as we can see here. So it comes with a full page in full color thumb print of the card. Such a beautiful card, by the way. This one, I really love it. It's called Transform Your Thoughts. And I love the fact that it's very airy, like it really gives you that idea that you need to focus on the overwhelm of your mind, which to me reminds me a lot of the three of swords. Let's put it this way: three of air. Transform your thoughts. So it's the way in which you tackle that sense of overwhelm that really helps you and find the cathartic moment in your life in which you just go beyond what you see in front of you and you succeed, hopefully. So many other cards here. I like that there is a repetition of the main subject of the image on the other page, but I'm not going to show you all of it because let me just quickly see if there's any spread at the end. As always, I don't really need a spread. It's nice to have a custom spread for each and every one of these decks, but if it's not that, it's absolutely fine. I like the fact that sometimes this is happening more and more often. You will see that there are playlists. For example, this one is Music to Accompany Your Inward Journey, has been created for you by visionary artist Silas Tobol, co-owner of Bybee Studios. His music is threaded with thunder and witchlight. It will inspire your soul while deepening your experience with the cards. And then Angie is also promoting her book, Doorways and Dream Fields, a true fairy tale. See, we're always going back there. We're going back to the power of fairy tales. So really like that. I don't see any specific custom spread, but as I said, that is absolutely not a problem at all. I will definitely make sure to find a way to connect this with this deck and finding my own spreads for this deck. So it is that really beautiful size. I love this format. It is a tarot format, even though it is an oracle deck. So let me just remove the wrap in here. So these are the backs, really gorgeous, stunning, I would say, really stunning. I absolutely love the combination of colors. There is a very dark background, as you can see, with plants, and there is a contrast between the green and the orange and yellows and the red. So I really like this. It has been etched, as you can see here, in this matte gold, which is really nice, and it feels like good quality. The cards are not sticking one to the other, so that tells me that it's going to be an easy deck. There you go, to fan out. It doesn't feel like there's a really huge number of cards, but that's okay. Let me just reach out for the book again and have a look, or maybe it does say something about it at the back. 45. There's 45 cards, which is plenty. I love a deck, an oracle deck that has 44 cards at least, and that's because I do use to pair them with tarot cards. So obviously, you know, the thicker the deck, the better, and 44 is my minimum, and it seems to be the natural consensus in the tarot community. But let's get to what actually made me go, oh my god, I really need this deck. Look at the images, and they're absolutely freaking amazing. And what I think that this deck offers more than other decks that offer similar kind of imagery is the combination between the images and, as I said earlier, the sentences at the bottom. So enter the conversation. Sapere aude. Sapere aude it means dare to know, dare to get the knowledge of something, dare to study, dare to know more than anything else in Latin. That the reason why I like it when people reflect on that sentence and they express that in Latin is because it dates that will to know things that comes from centuries ago, millennia ago. And I really strongly believe in that, and that is something that really resonates with me. Moonbathing hope. I mean, should I say how freaking gorgeous this card is? I am so stoked by this deck. I know that we get bombarded. We get bombarded. Every week there's a new deck. They talk about new decks in production. Oh, look at this card, Transform Your Thoughts. That's the one we were looking at earlier. It's true that it is a bit overwhelming at times. It can become a little bit overwhelming because it is difficult for us to keep track of all of the decks that have been published, that are being published. It is difficult to know whether a deck will resonate or not, especially because at the end of the day we don't really have access to the cards unless we buy them. Even though we can see, we can watch a video, we will walk through, but it's not the same. You really do, and I strongly believe that you really do need to keep the deck and the cards in your hands in order to be able to understand whether they are resonating with you and not just in general. Anno 2020, so this is for the 2020, Protecting the Fledgling. Wow, I will have to read the book on this because 2020 was probably the worst year of my life because of my personal tragedies in my life. My dad died of COVID within basically 12 hours. He was fine. I couldn't, So, and then, it was fine until it wasn't. And it took 12 hours to die. And it was just really a shock. And I was in Australia. I wasn't allowed to go to Italy for his funeral. So, and I did the way in which I said goodbye to him on the phone with the video camera. It was the worst year of my life. But I know that 2020 has been the worst year of many people's lives. I know that as a fact. I will have to read that card. I'm really interested to see. Obviously, as a tarot reader and also as a tarot collector, when I find a way to relate on a more personal level to a specific deck, that deck immediately jumps to the top 10 of all of my oracle decks, in this case, or tarot decks. Because there's no two ways around that. We want to read about ourselves, and that brings us back again to how important fairy tales are. We want to read about heroes that look like us, and not physically, it doesn't matter, but we want to feel like we are the heroes of our own stories. We want to feel that, like, again, David and Goliath. I am a woman, I'm not strong, I am not very big, I don't have a lot of upper body strength. But I want to believe that, like David fought Goliath, I have a chance. I want to read stories about people that might not be very strong, but they made it. They ultimately made it. Because when I'm going through something, I want to believe that there is a possibility for me to get better. And I believe that there's a lot of people out there that need to hear this message, that need to hear, especially when they're going through something, that they're not the only ones. And someone has been through that before and they made it. They made it to the other side and they made it safely. And they live happily ever after. And I'm not even, aiming for that. I'm just thinking it is so important for me to recognize myself in the hero of the story. And that's why there's so many fairy tales. And that's why also fairy tales are very important to be contextualized. So if I'm studying a yokai, a specific yokai from the Japanese lore, I really need to understand where that yokai and that tradition is coming from, because I need to understand the context. I need to understand what was the storyteller telling other people when he was telling the tale of that specific yokai. So I am going off on a tangent. I am sorry about that, but I am very excited about the study that we're doing with my members. It's absolutely amazing, even though it is a bit of a challenge. Get your brave on, absolutely. Unfurl the wings of forgiveness. I cannot wait to be using this deck, but what I wanted to do, because I really feel like I've got a couple of decks that really will pair nicely with this. Let me just grab them and we'll have a look and see whether they do pair nicely or not. Okay, so the second deck that I wanted to show you today that I just acquired, however, it is not by no means a new deck. As a matter of fact, there is a new version of this deck. This is the Tarot of Mystical Moments by Catherine Bellstein. I believe that by this game, again, it seems to be a US game kind of day, US game, and also Hay House. So they actually released a new version of this deck, which is also borderless but mini. I don't know necessarily how small we're talking about, but because I knew that this deck was standard tarot size, I thought that it would have been better to pair it up with the standard tarot size from this deck as well. If you guys have the mini, let me know, because I love minis. I have a lot, and whenever I can replace a full-size tarot deck with a mini, I do, because it's just easier logistically speaking, and it's also easier to take them with me when I travel. But please let me know, because one of the pet peeves that I got when it comes to a mini deck is how thick the cardstock is. Because for physical reasons, for physics actually reasons, if you use the same grammage on a smaller surface, you will have a much sturdier deck, and sometimes that means that I cannot shuffle. I don't know if it makes sense. In any case, please let me know if it's a deck, the mini one is easy to shuffle or not. I would appreciate that. So this one is Catherine Waldstein. I'm sure that you're all familiar with this deck. It is very surrealist when it comes to a lot of these images. It is at the same time, though, very intuitive. I would say the images do trigger a lot of turning in my mind. There is a lot that, let's say, not necessarily falls flat for me, but there's a lot that at first impressions I really need to dive deeper in order to be able to access the meaning of the card. For example, the Wheel of Fortune, this is an easy one because you see the cogs and you see the mechanism turning, and that's absolutely fine. And the character here is also holding a pocket watch. I don't know if you can see that here. So obviously there is this sense of time and then passing of time. So this is a card that actually it's a hit for me, not a miss. But the other cards are not as straightforward. So this is not a deck that I would say I would use straight away for a reading, unless, you know, someone asks for it, of course, then I will oblige. But it is one of those decks that I need to stay with it for a while in order to understand how to position myself towards the cards. Do I need to interpret them using my knowledge of the RWS, for example? Do I need to sprinkle in a little bit of alchemy with the power of the elements? Perhaps I need to do some numerology. So there's a number of things that sometimes give me pause, referring to the elements in the deck itself. And I actually believe that the Oracle of the Mystical Moments, which I think actually came out before the Tarot of the Mystical Moments, was a very successful enterprise, a very successful product, because those elements that throw me off when it comes to a tarot deck, the tarot card, actually really give my imagination free rein when it comes to an oracle card. I don't know whether this means that I am not a good reader with this deck. It doesn't really matter. What I wanted to see was whether I can actually combine these two. And I know that I could have used the Oracle of the Mystical Moments, but I actually have another deck that I want to pair up with these two in order to see whether they match or not, the vibes are the same or not. Perhaps they're not. I love the King of Swords. I know that there is an alternative card, I believe. I'm not entirely sure whether it's for all the kings. I'm pretty sure that there is one for the King of Swords, but this one is absolutely my favorite. I really love it. I love the fact that there is this swallow, I believe this bird is called. If it's not, please apologize. I apologize. I am not an expert when it comes to the English names of especially birds. But the eye of this bird coincides, it's the same eye of the person here, which I find it's absolutely fantastic, especially for the King of Swords. If you know me, I read with archetypes in mind when I think about the core cards. And I would say, let's have a look. I mean, it might work, it might not work. I'm very interested. Another tarot deck that will probably work even better is the Dream Keeper's Tarot. I don't have it, at least not now. I used to, and I probably want to acquire it again. It's one of those decks that I have it and then I rehome it and then I convince myself that I need it and then I don't, and then it just comes and goes. In any case, it will be very interesting to see whether that will work or not. And let me just quickly show you another deck that is not very popular. I don't know why. Probably because originally it was a German deck and then it has been translated into English. So obviously I have the English edition, otherwise I wouldn't be able to read it. But it's this one here. So this is very in the same space when we talk about the art style, the surrealist kind of art style. This is the Love Oracle by Cristofania. Cristofania is also the creator of I believe it's a Lenormand deck or a Keeper deck. I could be wrong, apologies for that. But in any case, so this one originally was in German, then I heard, and I noticed it when it was in German, I was actually almost, pushing the buy button, and then I heard that it was going to be translated. And this one has been published by Cartomancie Doucet. Sorry, I didn't know that it was French. Is it actually French? But no, the title is in English. Sorry, I'm confused because it's clearly in English. But obviously this, the publisher of the English version is a French publisher. So thank you for that, because that's awesome. The guidebook is really interesting as well. It does have a very similar way to propose the card as the Dream Song Oracle. So you do have some of the elements that are in the card but are repeated on the pages. You have the name of the card, you have the key themes, the relationship potential, the adventure, behind the scenes, and then your memory. And I have to say the guidebook is, as I said, really interesting, but also I personally think that after working with this deck for a couple of weeks and then setting it aside, because I had so many other decks that came in, I kind of, what I retained of my experience was more related to the cards and the keywords on the cards rather than what my experience was with reading the guidebook. So I don't know whether it's something that probably tells you a lot more about me than about the deck. And let me just show you, this is a really beautiful copper colored edging. So let's just set these three decks up and let's see how they pair up together. And here we go. And by the way, if you have the Lacrimosa Tarot, I would say it will pair up really nicely with the Love Oracle, because it does have that play on chiaroscuro, typical of the school of Caravaggio. Caravaggio was an Italian painter that was, I believe, probably not the first to work with chiaroscuro, but his intent was probably to work with it in a way that became universal, and it was copied many times by other painters that came after him. And I believe that the exit of his work is probably the best one that we can hope for. It's just absolutely amazing. So this one here is very similar in as much as it takes light and uses light as a protagonist in the card, and it let's say, and it pushes it against the dark of the other elements on the card. The Lacrimosa Tarot by Bybee is very much similar to this, and I highly recommend it. I don't have it yet. I'm just waiting to convince myself to do a make playing cards haul, in which I will buy 2-3 different decks and get them all shipped together. So let's have a look at these three. Now I'm thinking, I'm liking the fact that these two have the same height, even though the tarot deck is slightly wider. Would have hoped for this Oracle deck to be just as big, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's not a massive difference. And I don't know, what I do first, what do I do first? When I do a pairing of this kind, which is kind of different, because generally speaking, what I would use would be one tarot deck and one Oracle deck. I would just split the tarot deck in two, and I will put the two groups of cards at the side of the Oracle deck, and then I will read the message from the Oracle deck and decide to expand thanks to, let's say, the tarot cards are on the side. This one is the opposite. We got the tarot deck in the middle, and then we got two Oracle decks that are completely different when it comes to the intention of the cards, let's say in the meaning of the cards on the side. I let myself look at the images first, and I already see something here. I let myself focus on the images first. I don't even read the messages on the cards. I don't even identify which one of the tarot cards this is, but if the images actually get my attention, I will just stop and then I will look at the messages and try and see whether that will resonate with me on a personal level or universal level. It doesn't really matter. So what have we got here? The reason why I stopped was because we got the images on all of these butterflies in here. This ironically is the same card that I was talking about earlier, transform your thoughts. And then we got optimism here, and we got a similar sense of motions here because we got a dandelion with the seeds that are actually, you know, being dispersed into the wind, and it looks very similar to this card. So I also love that when we talk about directionality, the three characters in the three cards seem to be looking towards the right. So there is this sense of motion, there is this timeline that you can see, and you can recognize that. And so it tells me the three decks at this point, they actually tell me to start reading from this side, go into the situation as expressed by the tarot card, and then move on to the oracle card as if it were almost an outcome of this situation. So let's see, we start from transform your thoughts. So there is something that tells me that if something is not working at the moment, I really need to change the way in which I look at it. Transform your thoughts is taken in a different perspective. Think about the Hanged One, for example, the card in tarot. And so then I move on to the Ace of Swords. And obviously this is going even deeper, because the Ace of Swords is referring to the suit of air. The suit of air is related to the suit of the mind. And yes, we talk about thinking, we talk about thoughts, we're talking about overwhelm of the mind. And all the, you know, the mechanism that is going on whenever we are facing a situation. So this is clearly telling me that the situation at present needs me to take a step back, stop, reconsider things, look at things in a different way, transform my thoughts around that, and then move on with optimism. You see what I'm doing here? It is just, see how happy it makes me. It's just the way in which I use my decks sometimes actually cheers me up, and it's the equivalent for me of watching a really good movie. Last night I watched again John Wick Chapter 4 because it is my favorite movie of all time. Sorry to say that, but it's just it's freaking awesome. That movie is fantastic. And I was talking to my husband, I was saying, you know, it actually makes me happy. I was having a shitty day, pardon my French, and it's been a terrible month and a half. It's just really making me lose hope, but I want to do something for myself, and I was like, can we watch this movie? And my husband knows that I have a huge crush on Keanu, and he was like, yeah, it's okay, you can watch it. And I was like, you know, I just really love this movie. I just really love it. And I was happy. I was really happy watching it. And I had a great time, even though I knew every single line that he says, that Keanu says, because he doesn't have many. Admittedly, he probably has only 20 lines in the entire movie. But I just really, I love being able to say the line with him and feeling like I was actually in the story and participating into his troubles and everything. And so, you know, change your thoughts, change your mind, make yourself happy, do whatever it takes to make yourself happy, and give yourself a chance to actually solve things that are not going so well, or that are going the way you expected them to go around you. Because, again, the power of storytelling, you can do it, you can. It's just that you also need a little bit of energy, you know, coming out of a positive situation. So you need to create a positive situation around you in order to be able to take advantage of that. Really loving these three together, by the way. There's so many common things here. The elements, the symbols, there's a lot that we can talk about. I'm actually doing with my members, I am planning to do a video in which I'm actually just explaining the way in which I pair up tarot and oracle decks, what I look for, what is important to me, when a pairing is a win and when it's not a win, what does it need it to be resonating for me, and why is that important in my practice. Really love you know, being able to understand the cards and relate to the cards and interact with them at this level which is something that you can do even if you are a beginner. It doesn't actually matter, because this is all your soul. This is your soul reacting to the cards. So I'm really happy about these three together. Absolutely loving them. I will definitely, if I find it on sale, I would definitely get the Dream Keepers Tarot and see whether it matches a little bit better. Or maybe one day I would just click the buy button on the Lacrimosa Tarot and see whether I can pair them up together or not. Really, really excited about these three. Let me know in the comments below what you think, because I'm always interested to hear your opinion. If you have these decks, are you using them together or not? Or are there different decks that you think I may actually try out? And last but not least, there's another deck that I want to show you today. So this is the last deck that we're going to talk about today, and this is an Oracle deck, another Oracle deck. This is by Hay House, but it has been published or created by MJ Cullinane. She's one of my favorite creators. As a matter of fact, I actually wanted to pair up this deck with another deck that I finally bought, but it was supposed to be delivered today. It did not come. And I really want to talk about all of the other decks that I was so excited about. And at the same time, I didn't necessarily want to show you like 10 decks. There are 2 decks that are coming that I am planning to pair up with this one. For the time being, I'm just going to show you this one. It is the Urban Crow Oracle. And it does have 54 cards, so it's really interesting because I like it when I have a bigger Oracle deck, because it gives me a lot of possibilities, a lot of different ways to approach and to work with it. So let's have a look at this deck. I'm just going to unwrap it. Okay, so let's see 2 bird box, as we often do have with Hay House decks. And I'm also expecting it to be the usual cardstock, which is very papery for me. It feels, the touch of the cards feels very papery. I'm absolutely fine with that. I actually like it, so not a deal breaker at all. It is matte, so it's not catching the light, as you can see, and it does go really well with MJ's art style and MJ's decks in general, because even the Forhaxa, which is one of my favorite ones that she's made, and there's another one that is still going to be delivered probably on Monday, so you'll probably see the first impression of that deck that is coming to me. It's by MJ, but it's not a mass market deck, it's an indie deck, and I'm so very excited about that one. And I will say this, I know it's going to be an unpopular opinion, I apologize in advance, but I actually prefer Hay House cardstock rather than MJ's Indie Decks cardstock. Whenever I have a deck by MJ that goes into mass market by Hay House, I would probably get the mass market edition because of the cardstock. I know that it is more pressure, let's say it's probably more expensive. The production value of MJ's decks are absolutely fantastic when they're indie, but for the way in which I use them, it's actually, I don't know, I just do prefer this one. If you hear my cat Chicho in the background, he's saying that he hasn't been fed. He's lying. He has been fed. He has been cuddled. Chicho! Of course, when I call him, then he shuts up. But he's just acting out, and I told him that it's not okay to do that. I'm not cruel, don't call the RSPCA on me. I really love him. And we've got Missy here, by the way. She's always with me. I really, really love this crystal. Whenever there's a ray of light hitting the crystal, there's all sorts of rainbows, coming out of it. And these are her ashes. So I really love them. And but he's kind of being a bit naughty today. So yeah. In any case, so as I was saying, I definitely like this cardstock a bit better. I feel like the indie one. The cards of the indie one are very slippery to me, so and it's also because I have smallish kind of hands, so obviously that means I have a bit of a less grip on the cards when they are larger. I love the backs. Was this the original? I know that there's a couple of different editions of this deck, even in the mass market. I could be wrong though, but it looks like the backs are different. I could be completely wrong. They are definitely different from the indie edition in any case. And it is very intense. This is a very intense deck. I know that, keeping a very intense deck as the last deck of this video. was probably a mistake. But I have to say this. MJ always hits it in the head when it comes to the representation of animals in her decks. She always makes sure that they express anthropomorphic kind of feelings, human feelings. I don't know why I always choose the more difficult word to express what I want to say. So there is a couple of cards here. Sorry, did I just miss one? No, communication is okay. Commitment is okay. I remember about this deck that there is one card that actually kind of hits me in the feelings. Well, look at this one. Displacement, distance, destruction, dominance. Wow, oh my goodness, exposed. So I obviously don't remember it. I know that it goes into alphabetical order, so if I see it, I will tell you which one it is. Well, grief. I mean, look at this card. It's just really, really intense for me. It feels like crows are used in this deck as if they were representing human beings, us, just us, and difficult times that we are going through in our lives, and the way in which we react to that, and the way in which the environment is pushing up to react to that, and also peer pressure in many, many cases, and the way in which the crows belong to a murder. So the murder is a group of crows, and I do feel like I want to actually pair this deck up with the Murder of Crows Tarot. It is going to make for a very dark kind of pairing, because I'm expecting it to be led down the darker side by the Murder of Crows, which is a very dark deck, but you guys know that I absolutely love that deck because it was illustrated by Roy, which is one of my favorite illustrators of all time. Release. So there is grief and then the same image, but the crows are actually taking flight, which means that they process the grief, and when you process the grief, you are releasing that kind of energy into back into the world. So I like this approach. I think it's a very intense. I've said that 3 times already. This is an incredibly intense deck. One thing that I want to say about MJ, she doesn't shy away from very powerful cards, to the extent that I cannot have the Guardian of the Night Tarot, because there is one card, and I'm not talking about it because it is triggering for me and for a lot of people, especially now. There is one card which is so intense that it is triggering, and I just cannot deal with that card. And I love that deck. I love the representation. I love the art style. I love the fact that all these animals, but I just cannot see that card. And that is a pity though, because I would love to be able to interact with that. Maybe it's something that I have to work on for myself. I have no idea. But in any case, this is a really beautiful deck that I am looking forward to pair up with another couple of decks that are in the mail, and so I will be able to show them to you next week. For now, thank you so much for watching. If you like it, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really does mean a lot to me. I know that I always say that at the end of the video, and most of you would have probably clicked off by now because I'm not showing any more cards, but I have to say this is the way in which I'm also supporting myself. So my channel is slowly becoming a part of my sustenance, my own, the way in which I actually support myself as a creator. And it is very important for me to, being able to connect with you all. So check out my membership if you want. There's so much that I'm doing with my members, and it's a growing community, and it's really, really bringing me a lot of joy. And hopefully it's the same for my members as well. But in any case, have a great day, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye!